Imagine this: what if the FBI were no longer subject to oversight by the US President or Congress, answered instead to international donors, and made decisions outside the democratic chain of command? Would anyone still call that democracy? This isn't a thought experiment. It reflects what's happening in Ukraine today, where an agency called NABU, presented as independent, operates outside the authority of the elected president and parliament, but closely within the orbit of Western donors and reform-linked aid conditionality, particularly tied to the institutional policies established under the Obama administration. NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, was created in 2015 following the Maidan uprising. At the time, Western policymakers viewed Ukraine as the front line of democracy, and US, EU, and IMF aid flowed in with a clear message: adopt Western-style institutions or lose support. NABU became the centerpiece of that model. Many called it reform, but reform in service of whom? This content presents a personal analysis based on public sources for educational and journalistic purposes. NABU reports neither to the President nor to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It receives technical support from U.S. agencies like the FBI and international NGOs. Some of its prosecutors were selected through externally funded transparent selection processes involving NGOs backed by global foundations advocating for open societies. Ukrainians did not elect NABU. The president cannot fire its director. Parliament lacks authority to oversee it. Yet, foreign aid continues contingent upon NABU preserving its independence. So, what kind of governance is this? A justice body empowered to investigate elected leaders without any electoral or legislative accountability. Is that democracy, or is it foreign engineered technocracy? To be clear, NABU has carried out real investigations, including probes into pro-Russian officials and investigations involving several sitting lawmakers. NABU also opened inquiries involving a notable energy company that attracted international attention due to its connections with individuals close to U.S. political circles, but those efforts were quietly dropped. The fallout led to the removal of prosecutor Viktor Shokin, who later claimed he was forced out under external pressure after being deemed insufficiently committed to reform. From 2022 to 2024, investigations began to shift inward, targeting figures within Zelensky's own administration. These shifts coincided with increased demands from donors for structural reforms in Ukraine's land, energy, and enterprise laws. At first glance, the pattern seems politically neutral, but a closer look reveals a recurring alignment. Probes often intensify when Ukraine is due to demonstrate reform in exchange for aid, or when the West needs to send a signal. This raises a troubling question: is NABU serving justice or serving foreign policy? When President Zelensky proposed legislation to bring NABU under some degree of oversight, civil society groups took to the streets. Western media portrayed them as young, idealistic defenders of justice. But who funds them? Most of the organizing NGOs receive grants from the EU, the US, and globally active foundations known for promoting open society models, but operating with limited democratic accountability. These groups, though unelected, often influence media narratives and policy debates at a national scale. This isn't conspiracy. It's the legacy of the 2014 transition, when a president was ousted and new institutions like NABU were imposed as a precondition for aid. It was a political transformation engineered with limited public input. The Trump administration repeatedly paused or cut funding for international programs it deemed unaccountable or misaligned with U.S. interests. Its foreign aid principle was clear: support stability, not technocratic overhauls designed abroad and imposed without domestic consent. When President Trump pressured Ukraine to ensure transparency over U.S. aid flows, he wasn't meddling. He was defending the America First doctrine and demanding accountability from foreign governments receiving American taxpayer dollars. After all, why should the U.S. bankroll institutions that even local presidents can't control? Zelensky is an elected leader. He may, but if a president lacks the authority to amend the oversight structure of an investigatory agency, who truly governs the country? Zelensky initially signed the law expanding oversight over NABU, but quickly reversed course after backlash from international stakeholders. The question remains, do the Ukrainian people still shape the country's most powerful institutions? Ukraine needs freedom not just from Russian aggression, but also from externally designed institutional models that lack organic ties to its democratic process. Fighting corruption is vital, but an anti-corruption body must answer to the nation it serves, not to international lenders or political advocacy networks headquartered in Brussels or Washington. Sovereignty does not mean perfection. It means that if mistakes are made, they are the people's to own, not the result of imported blueprints masquerading as reform. That's the conservative understanding of liberty, grounded in national responsibility, democratic legitimacy, and accountability to the voter. That was who really controls Ukraine's anti-corruption agenda. If you found this analysis insightful, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment below with your thoughts. Your support helps us keep making in-depth content like this. Thanks for watching.